For today's reading, we are going to be finding and facing those fears that you have inside. Letting yourself know exactly what it is that you're most afraid of so that you can face it and overcome it. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you guys as well for whatever support you send this way. Whether it be liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, leaving timestamps, donations, making purchases, everything that you guys do to support me and the work that I do helps not only me to be able to support myself as I'm here doing this, but also helps a lot of other people just like you. So thank you guys for that. And let's get started with this reading today. So, listening to your intuition, but yet being at peace. Sometimes there are bad things happening, and sometimes you do know ahead of time that there are some things that are not so good that are going to be happening. But remember that everything has a purpose, everything has a reason. And at the end of the day, we need to be at peace, 111, with the way things are or the way things are meant to be. There's been some pretty not so good things recently that have been popping up in my intuition, and at the same time, I know that those things are going to be happening for a reason. So it is going to be painful when this comes about. And at the same time, I know that every ending brings about a new beginning. Hi, Rashima. Nice to see you. Trusting your intuition when your intuition tells you to say no as well. 144. When your intuition tells you to say no about certain situations or certain things, remember to follow it and listen to it. Some of you may have actually just recently kind of experienced an extra lesson in that because something could have happened because you decided not to follow your intuition or trust your gut instincts. You may have just decided to go along with something that somebody else wanted when deep down you were wanting to say something about it or you weren't really wanting to do it, 1111. And so it may be time to really tap into that voice inside of you and listen more clearly. Some of you could also be worried or nervous or afraid about being turned down for a certain situation or a certain scenario. And you're really being asked to be at peace with doors that are not opening to you. Because when doors are not opening to you, it's for a reason. 244. There are other doors that may be much better for you to walk through. And you can't find those doors or walk through them while you're still standing stuck in a doorway from the past. And that one's been a hard one for me to overcome at times too. It's been hard for me to let go at times of certain situations that I really wanted or I really felt like were meant for me or should have been meant for me. But those weren't the situations that were meant for me. The ones that I moved into after that were meant for me. And in order to be able to move into those situations, I had to move out of the old one. And sometimes those situations aren't meant to last forever either, but only for a short time. I could die happy for a moment, happy because you gave me your spare time. And if you're feeling like somebody in your life doesn't have much time left and you're kind of avoiding them because of it, and you're like worried if I call them, they may not answer the phone because they might be dead or something along those lines, it's time to let that fear go too and to be at peace with the way things are and the cycles of life and death and allow things to play out the way that they're meant to play out. Don't waste the time that you have left because we are not guaranteed forever. Believing and receiving. Thank you, Rashima. Awesome, Tori. Thank you so much. Nice to see you again too, beautiful. I really did miss you guys a lot. So Pisces. Someone else may tell you no about a certain situation or something as well, 433. Or you may end up having to tell somebody no about a certain situation too, because you're following your intuition. Someone may be upset about this, someone may be hurt by this, but at the end of the day, you can't change what you feel inside. So some of you could actually be afraid of saying no to a specific person, or of letting somebody down, or of the pain or hurt that somebody may feel, if you decide not to do something in particular, or if you decide to say no to something in particular, it's time to let that go. Because you can't just live your life to make others happy, and you're not going to be able to make everyone happy all the time either. Peaceful sleep. Someone may be having a lot of nightmares, 544, and they could be having an extremely hard time sleeping because of these nightmares. I feel like you may have helped them in some way. You may have helped them to overcome something in particular, or if you allow yourself to speak what you need to speak, if you allow yourself to teach from your heart, there's going to be a lot of success here in this particular situation. And remember as well to give credit where credit is due. If I die young, bury me in satin, lay me down in a bed of roses, sink me in the river at dawn, send me away to the words of a love song. Oh shit. For some of you, you may be scared of the exact pain. You may have been getting a lot of messages recently about some sort of pain in your life causing your creativity to expand and explode. And you might be afraid of what is going to be happening to cause this to expand and explode. Because it may be a pain that's going to be bigger than just about any pain you've ever experienced in your life. And it's going to push you forward. But at the same time, that past is going to be extremely hard to let go of, which is why your creativity is going to expand and explode so much, because you're going to be working through so much turmoil that it's going to be hard to bear without delving into your artistic abilities and creativities. I am so happy to know that I was missed by so many people as well, even though, sorry I was missed by everybody, but, it is kind of nice to know sometimes that you're missed. Make the choice before the universe does it for you. I was given that message for a couple weeks before that happened a couple weeks ago too. Make the choice before you have no choice. There's a couple different things in my life that I'm pretty sure that's what they were talking about. I refused to pull myself out of the situations, or to distance myself, or to move away for a time period, and they're like, nope, this is what's happening. Don't be afraid of your dreams. Some of you could be afraid of what your dreams are trying to tell you. So you may be actually blocking out a lot of important messages as well when it comes to your sleep time. Hi. Some of you could be afraid to be in a more childlike energy too. Drink more water. And some of you could be afraid of certain abuses happening to your children that have happened to you in the past as well, or just happening to others. Some of you could be afraid to express yourself more creatively in your looks or in your dress. Some of you could be feeling shame or guilt or fear surrounding being yourself in some way, and how others are going to feel about the way that you are being. Some of you could have a child even that might be a little bit more judgmental about it, because maybe You used to feel a similar way to the way that your child feels, or maybe their other parent feels that way, or whatever the case may be. And you could be afraid of how this child's going to look at you, or how the people that are looking up to you are going to look at you. That's one of the things about, you know, donning the name Angel or something, and everybody's like, oh, this person's supposed to be perfect. They're not supposed to ever do anything bad. They're not supposed to be a fucking human being still. Angels weren't perfect either. That's why God created humans to begin with, if you go by that religion, is because angels weren't perfect. He wanted a perfect something. And then we ate the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, and we became like him and knew all those things that he knew. We became creators and shit instead of just the creation. Instead of just the puppets, we became puppet masters. Huh, weird. Anyway, but it's time to not care about that anymore. It's time to not worry about that. It's time to be at peace with who you are, and to realize it's not your responsibility what other people think about you, how other people feel about you, how other people see you. It's only your responsibility to be yourself and to show others and inspire others along the way to be their true self too. You could have had some inspirational teachers along the way as well. Ones that showed you to come out of that box and that it was okay, that you could do it. Some of you may have actually even had fights with these people, or ended up not around these people anymore after a certain time period. And you may be seeing things very differently now than you were in the past. There could actually be some people that may be upset with you or in competition with you in some sort of way because of your athleticism, or because of your the way that you stand out, the way that you shine, the way that you lead, the way that you inspire. If I'm shining, everybody gonna shine. I was born like this, don't even gotta try. But don't be afraid of that energy, because that happens all the time, and you can repair that. That you can repair that damage. You can fix that situation. The way that you don't fix that situation is by falling into that fear, and is by arguing and fighting with those people that you love. When instead, you know deep down at the core and at the heart of the matter, the problem is this person is not doing the same thing in their life. So inspire them to do the same thing in their life, to open their minds and hearts up to accepting themselves as they are, and reminding them that they're beautiful. If they start putting little touches on to shift and change how they're dressing, or how they're behaving, or how they're speaking, encourage them to keep moving forward in that direction towards letting out more of themselves. And as they do, they will release the fact that they're upset with you for being able to be yourself when they feel like they're not able to. 111 and 333. Thank you, beautiful. You can go ahead and put your question down there anytime, and we will get that answered. Earth Angel 1188. Ideas. Sparking ideas. Generating ideas. Having ideas. All of the time that you have put in, the effort, the work, the attention to detail, the building up of your knowledge and your skills, the communication, the effort, the energy, all of that is coming back to you at this time. You have been able to align yourself. And if you have not fully found that alignment yet, this is where you're headed. By letting go of and releasing all of these fears, the fears of the judgment, the fears of the condemnation, the fears of others feeling like whatever image you're putting out there doesn't match what you say you are, even though it does. Because the image and that shallowness of that energy is not something that can tell you who a person is on the inside anyway. It can in certain ways. But sometimes just because something's different, people can be extremely afraid of it. And once you show them that there's nothing to be afraid of in these differences that you have from them, 1455 and 22, that's when peace and harmony and balance can reign. You are doing an amazing job. Somebody may even want to reach out and communicate to you about the amazing job that you're doing, about how you have helped them in certain ways. You may be afraid of someone reaching out to you because you may feel like this person's angry with you or jealous, or this person is feeling a certain way, or maybe you feel like you let this person down, or maybe you feel like this person may even be jealous of somebody else that's still in your life when they aren't allowed to be. But this person has learned from you how to take accountability, how to take responsibility, how to do what's right, how to return and apologize when they've done something wrong, and to know that they will still be loved at the end of the day by the people that they love, because those people know that they're human too. And so this person is not coming in to cause havoc or pain or hardship or to hurt anyone you love. This person is coming in to express to you the amazing job that you're doing and how you have led them and inspired them and made them feel like they could do anything. You made them sleep peacefully at night. You allowed them to be able to take care of themselves better. You helped them to open up to give and receiving in a more equal give and take. Whether they were on the take or giver side, they have learned now, and most of the time you're in the taker side with certain people and giver side with certain people till it balances out. But they've learned now how to shift that and transform that to make a better life for themselves. And they want to let you know that they really appreciate everything that you brought into their life. This person really could look at you as a parent figure in some sort of way too. Someone who has parented them. Crying is not something that you do a lot, but you truly mean it when you do. You may even get to see the tears of someone you've never seen the tears of before, or very rarely seen the tears of. And you're going to know that this person is genuine in these tears. You may have been emotionally manipulated a lot in the past, or dealt with a lot of pain, hurt, and hardship from certain people. But you have nothing to be afraid of at this time, because good things are coming in. This could even be a sibling of yours as well. We have Gemini. And once again, somebody could be coming to apologize. Somebody could have been playing both sides of the fence. Someone could have been very two-faced or backhanded, or somebody could have even just betrayed you by not telling you that they knew what was going on behind the scenes with other people around you that were hurting you. Your communication is very important at this time. You're very good at communication. You're very good at working with people. You're very good at blending in with different types of people, different groups of people. Somebody may actually be getting a job soon where they are going to be like a party planner or an event planner or like a hostess in some way. Wow, there was this casting agency that I went to at one point recently. And the person that was there to greet me and to take the pictures and to do all that kind of stuff, God, this person reminded me so much of one of my friends in the past. And I was just like, this is where she should be. This is where she'd be happy. If she could only get over that fear, she would be so amazing doing something just like this. I want something just like this. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Holding out for a hero. A hero can save the day, but yet, I'm not looking for a hero. I'm not looking for fairy tale bliss. I want something just like this. I don't need a superhuman. There may be something to do with a drawing tablet as well. There could be something to do with work or school or your projections. Some of you could be afraid of the drop that you've had in certain areas, especially if it comes to a financial sector or a work sector or something along those lines. You may be very nervous or worried. Awesome. Thank you so much, beautiful. I appreciate it. And yes, I realize you are male, but I call a lot of men beautiful. Thank you. So, you may be worried about that. You may be worried about things that have gotten in the way, or it's reminding me a little bit of the situation I've had this year, because all of my stuff was finally coming up. Everything was working out good. I was making some extra money. I was feeling like I could finally start putting some of it away and finally start taking care of some of the things that I need to take care of to get back on my feet. And then the cops in this town that have been harassing me for the last 3.5 years amped it up to another fucking level, because they can't let me climb out of that. Then everybody might start listening to things I've been saying for the last 3.5 years instead of just thinking I'm some crazy homeless person, right? And so all of the shit I've been putting up with them, with them for this year has completely torn it all down. Fuck, my views are so low right now. It's ridiculous. And the amount of money coming into my life right now, after the last 3 weeks of not being able to work at either one of my jobs, it's ridiculously low. Ridiculously low. And I got a lot of debt that I'm paying back right now for everything that they put me through over the last couple months. And with all of that combined, that is something scary. Especially since I really do not like being in debt at all. I don't like owing people money at all. And I told somebody that I was going to try to have the extra money I owe them back to them by tomorrow. And you know what? I'm maybe going to be able to pay back $20 of it. And that's like 1/8 of it. And it's kind of, sometimes things play out that way. And it's okay. Because as these fears are triggered and as these fears come up, we get to face them and overcome them. And we get to find that peace within, even though there may be a lot of chaos going on around us. And that's how we understand and realize that that peace isn't something found outside of ourselves, but it is something that is actually within us. You're going to have a lot of new ideas coming in. You're going to be generating a lot of new income as well, I feel like, for a lot of you. You're going to be really amping up what you've been working on, or there's going to be a lot of new coming into play when it comes to that. And things are going to be going up. They're going to be really projecting upwards. So, and you know what? I've got to really see and find out who the most real people in my life are, who the friends, the family, the ones that actually care about me are during this time as well. And that's what you're going to be finding out for yourself, is who the ones that care are, the ones that are going to put forth that effort to step in when you need it most. When I was sitting in there, I had absolutely no hope at all of being able to get out of there, even when they lowered my bond, and it was only going to cost $250 out of there. Finding somebody to sign and finding somebody to put up that money, I was like, I don't have any hope of that. But I went ahead and just on a gut instinct saw one name popped out at me on my paper that I had with numbers on it. I was like, I'm going to call him. He stayed in my trailer a few times when his vehicle was broke down and he was living in it. And you know what? I bet you he would help me, even though we haven't talked for about 8 months, and even though he was kind of upset that I put him in the dad zone and didn't want to date him. And you know what? He's like, I don't have the money, but I will make sure, or I will try my hardest to get it together, and call me back in a couple hours and we'll see what we can do. I called him back and he's like, we'll have you out of there in 2 hours. And he did. But that's who I'm paying back tomorrow too. So, because it wasn't his money. Hi, Samya. Nice to see you again. Exactly, Tori. It's found inside of us. That peace is not something that is external. It's not something that we can go find somewhere else in the world. If you can have peace anywhere or somewhere, you can have peace anywhere. Anywhere. Even in this chaotic ass town with all that harassment, and even with being homeless, and even with not having food to eat some days, and even with my money being in the fucking shitter again after finally climbing it up there a bit. I'm at peace today. And I'm very grateful for the blessings that have come my way this last week. And I am here to express my gratitude and to testify that my prayers were answered. And it doesn't matter who the fuck I prayed to, because they were answered. They were answered by my mother and father, who listened to those prayers. My brother and sister, my grandma, my uncle and my grandpa and aunt, and all the other ancestors that were there to hear my pleas. The ones that are left behind in the trees, in the grass, in the earth, in the sky, wherever they happen to be, however they happen to choose to be buried or put to rest at last. Because that's where they are. They are a part of this earth now, and they are a part of the energy that is all around us. And they are here for us, and they hear our pleas when we reach out. And by the way, in the middle of talking about that, somebody messaged me something about possibly being able to throw me $50 on Monday. And I'm going to let him know that it'd be cool to be able to sit down and do a reading with him in return, too. Crop circles, messages, curiosity, signs. And if he doesn't want to do that, then I'll end up making him a painting or something. Because it's always good to give back in some way what you can. But it's also good to be able to say, thank you, I appreciate it, and accept that. That person that I owe that money to, night before last, he took me to go grab some food items from the dollar store. And I'm like, dude, I already owe you $130. Why are you taking me to buy food? And he's like, because you need food. And I was like, okay, I should probably just shut up and say thank you then, right? I already said thank you before that, but you know, sometimes it's hard to do that. It is, because you don't want to be the taker. But the right people know that too. Arcturians, feeling safe, wisdom keepers, concern. So some of you could be very concerned about your safety, very concerned about your protection level, very concerned about the wisdom that you have in you and the hands that it ends up in. 2755. But you're being divinely guided to change the way that you look at things, to change your perspective, and to understand that you are extremely protected in the work that you are doing. And that sharing that wisdom will not be something that brings a downfall. It will be something that lifts you up and ignites new within your life. It's really going to bring a lot of new opportunities, a lot of new energy, and a lot of new life into your world. Nephilim, controversial, assessing, and new perspectives. Once again with the new perspectives, and some of you could actually be afraid of expressing these new perspectives that you have, these different opinions or thoughts or ideas that you have from the rest of the world. Kind of like when I was talking about in my post on my community page yesterday, drugs don't rape people. Drugs don't rob people. Drugs don't kill people. Neither does alcohol. People do that. If you can't blame the gun for doing that, then you can't blame the drugs and alcohol either. Because when you start saying that people who are doing drugs don't deserve to be in jail, everybody's like, oh, well, they're out there robbing people and hurting people and killing people. And no, they aren't. Not all of them. Some of them maybe. But what, you're going to arrest them for something else because they might do that? What are we, the thought police now? Are we living in George Orwell's 1984? Because that's fucking ridiculous. That's not okay. When people are drinking and they're not out bothering people, they're not out driving, they're not causing problems of any kind, they're just chilling at home, minding their own business, the cops don't bust down their door and drag them off to jail. So why should they be doing that for any other substance on this planet? And I realized, yeah, they're hurting themselves. They are with alcohol too. But they're allowed to do that because the government's getting paid. They are with cigarettes too. But they're allowed to do that because the government's getting paid. Well, the government's getting paid for their war on drugs too. So is the cartel. And the cartel that does kill people, they wouldn't even exist if we got rid of the war on drugs. But then the government would have to admit that they were wrong all these years. And they would have to turn things around. Then they could actually get their money for it as well, in the right way instead of the wrong way. Instead of in the destroy everything and everyone and all their lives and their families and everything else. And you know what? I really don't understand how the children of the 80s went from we got to fight for our right to party and we're not gonna take it. Oh no, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. To you got to work from dawn till dusk. And it doesn't matter if it's a minimum wage job. Go do that. And don't you even think about dreaming about something else. Don't you even think about having any kind of fun. Don't you even think about doing anything outside the normal because you're supposed to be a fucking robotic slave for this country. How the fuck did we go to that? Because it's ridiculous. And see how easy it is to share those new opinions and those new ideas and those new perspectives, regardless of whether or not anybody's gonna fucking like it. Because who gives a shit? If that's what you're feeling is right, then it's time to start expressing it. So, let's get Tori's question answered really quick. There was a recent situation that you got to observe from another angle, and you realized that you don't desire surface level. Your intuition is talking to you, and you just wanted to make sure. I can completely understand that. Because you know what? There's been points in time in my life where I didn't realize I was being a little bit shallow in that area or only delving to surface deep instead of allowing myself to dive in a bit deeper and get a little bit more intimately connected with people. It is so hard sometimes to fight through those trust issues and to fight through the pain or the hurt or the abuse or the trauma to allow new people to enter your life, especially if those new people remind you a bit of the old people, and they're gonna. Because you're still gonna love what you love. And some of those people are gonna have the exact same demons, but some of those people have learned how to manage them a bit better. You've learned how to manage yourself a bit better. You've learned how to communicate a bit better, things like that. And all of those things combined together can create a totally different outcome with somebody who does really appear to be very similar to those past people. And sometimes you can even repair some of those past situations because you and that person have learned and you and that person have been able to grow and move forward. You were really seeing what you were feeling. Hope I worded this right. You worded it perfectly, sweetheart. I know exactly what you're meaning. Untrust. Actually, I think that might have been a word in the 1984 book. Uncertainty, distrust, guarded. What's funny is that 1984 book, okay, I read that book in like 2015, I think. 2015, somewhere around there. My ex-husband's brother was talking to me in the park one day. We hadn't seen him in a couple years. And he was talking to me in the park one day. I think it might have been 2016 or 17. And my husband was kind of trailing behind us and our kids had ran off to play. And we were discussing this book and we were really getting into this conversation because it sounded like a really good book and he was going to let me borrow it. And, you know, he was telling me what it was about and all that kind of stuff. And we were discussing a few other things with books. My husband actually got jealous because he felt like me and his brother had more in common and I might leave him for him. God, the red flags, right? How the fuck did I not see those? Because everybody that's been here long enough knows what me and my ex decided to do with our poly thing. And yeah, it did not go good. So, we got in a bit of an argument about it. But he also seemed to understand what I was saying. And, you know, I was like, just because I have things in common with other people and just because, you know, I enjoy being around other people and interacting with other people does not mean that I don't love you. What the hell are you talking about? And yeah. He was uncertain, distrustful, guarded. He had experienced a lot of people cheating on him in the past. But at that point, we had been together for so fucking long at that point, it's ridiculous. And we had gone through that same conversation so many times. We had to go through that conversation constantly throughout our entire relationship. That just because other people hurt him that way didn't mean that I was going to be hurting him that way. But when you force someone to, or you manifest it because of your fear, that's what happens. So all the learning and all the growth that you've done over the last couple years is going to allow you to be able to open up more now. It's going to allow you to be able to drop that guard, to drop that shield, and your intuition is perfectly intact right now. It is very correct, 100% on point when it is telling you that it is time to drop that guard. The fear is what's telling you, oh no, don't you drop that guard. Don't you let it down. Don't you let this person in, because this person's going to hurt you just like that person did. Just because someone in the past hurt you does not mean the people in the present will. And it doesn't mean that that person in the past is going to hurt you again either. Vesica Pisces. Divine feminine, birthing, and fertility. That always reminds me of Pisces too, which is making me think of emotions. Listen to your emotions. Listen to your heart. Listen with your heart. You will understand. Let it break upon you like the waves upon the sand. What do you see when you listen to your intuition? What do you see? You might want to do some cloud gazing if you get the chance in the near future as well, to do some cloud gazing. One of the greatest ways to divinate right there, just staring at the clouds for a little while and watching all the shapes and forms appear and watching the stories that they tell you. Listen to the symbolism, the signs, the synchronicities, and the messages coming your way. It is so fucking hard sometimes to drop that fear and to be able to follow that path. But you have that strength and that courage within you. Taking a leap of faith means jumping into a black pit, not knowing whether or not you are going to be safe, but just believing that there is a reason why you're jumping into this black pit. And once you get down there, you might land on this plushy, bouncy fern that's gigantic. I don't know. Alice in Wonderland just popped in my mind in the middle of that, and Journey to the Center of the Earth and a few other things. And there might be somebody that's laying on the ground bleeding to death right there, that you're actually able to staunch the flow and bring them back to life. But you wouldn't have been able to be that amazing healer that you are without taking that leap of faith. Being a healer requires so many leaps of faith on almost a daily basis that it's ridiculous. Because that guy that came and bonded me out this last week too, do you know how many people, don't you be letting weird guys stay in your trailer? Why are you doing that? Oh my God, you're going to end up dead. And like I told my mom, if I end up dying doing what I love, if I end up dying helping other people, then I do. I don't want my death to be made into a monstrous thing though. I want my death to stand for something. I want people to go, she took that leap of faith and she chose to do that regardless of the risk that she was taking. I don't want them to go, oh, now we need to make it illegal for anybody to help anybody. Kind of like when somebody drowns in a river, oh, we need to make it illegal for them to swim in a river now because we got to protect people from themselves. I would so much rather die doing what I love than to be kept inside of a fucking box for protection for the rest of my life. And I know that you feel the same way in your life. Hi, Life of Ava. Nice to see you. St. Louis, huh? I have never been to St. Louis. But I'm pretty sure they got some pretty good blues, jazz, and soul music there, right? Good. I'm glad it's such a good afternoon for you. Harmony, protection, idealism. There's nothing wrong with idealism. There's nothing wrong with positivity, optimism, hope, joy, faith. People will try to convince you that there is. And I mean, when you wear such rose-colored glasses that you can't see the truth in front of you, there's a lot of cons to that, but there's a lot of pros to it too. When you wear shit-colored glasses, there's a lot of cons to that, but there's some pros too. When you start balancing both of those out, and you kind of got the half optimism and the half pessimism, you can have a bit more of a realistic view. And after you go through a lot of that trauma and that pain and that hurt and that hardship, and it kind of distorts your vision and you go into that other side so much for a while, you kind of come back to this side a bit, and then it's a little bit more balanced between the two. So don't feel like you are going to interact in those situations the same way as you have in the past. And the different way of interacting is the important part, because the different way of interacting is what causes a different result. If you want different results from right now, then you have to behave in a different manner. If you want different results from the past, then you have to behave in a different manner. And until you find the right one, you're going to be learning and growing, and you're going to be shifting it and moving it and changing it. My ex at one point in time a few years back was like, because I was like, if you're not happy doing what you're doing right now, then why don't you go get a different job? Why don't you do something different? Why don't you branch out? I'm too old to be doing that. No, you're not. You're never too old to be doing that. If you're not happy where you are, you do something else. That's the way it is. Insanity is choosing to repeat the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So now it's time to change that interaction so that you can get that different result. Glad you're doing good today. 6 of Stakes, 8 of Pentacles. Wish I could play the father and take you by the hand. Wish I could stay your stalwart, standing fast, but I'm standing in the way. You're not ready, or you are ready for the world outside, and you can face it, but you just hide. So I'm standing in the way. There is times that you got to back up from certain situations, because sometimes it's kind of like a baby bird in a nest. There are some baby birds that will not hop out of that nest unless their parent pushes them. And it's not like that parent was leaving them alone to face everything on their own completely. They were still watching from a safe distance. Sometimes you got to watch from a safe distance, and sometimes you got to move in a bit closer. I will say this much: walking away from somebody completely never really helped. He ended up coming back, and yeah, you learn, you grow, you understand things. At points, you may feel like the holding back you did, 33, was not good. But the holding back you did, even though people may have felt pain in that, it was needed in that time. (4334), mirroring energy. Learning, growth, celebrating your successes. You've been building this great foundation. At one point in time, your foundation only had 3 legs instead of 4. But the learning, the growth, the overcoming that you've done, you now have this foundation that is so solid and so strong that it won't be able to be shaken by people disappearing from your life, because you know that your wings will carry you when you take that leap. When you go into a certain situation and you're opening up and you're becoming more intimate with that person, enjoy the situation for what it is and allow it to be what it is while it's there. And be okay with the fact that it may not be there forever. And be okay with the fact that this person may know things about you that a lot of other people never knew about you. And they may take them with them when they leave. And that loyalty may not be present when they do. It is hard to do, especially if you have grown up in a situation where you were pushed to not let anybody in the outside world know what was going on inside of your household. I grew up in a similar one. Most of us in this country did, because we were afraid that if we said anything about anything going on, help would not be offered. Instead, punishment would be offered. There was one time my mom chased me across the house trying to catch me so she could beat me. And I fell and I smacked my face on some jagged wood. It was like a, what is it? Kind of like a leg of a chair, but I can't think of, it was sticking up. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was a jagged piece of wood that was sticking up, and it was a part of something that was furniture in our house. And I fell and I smacked my eyeball on it, and it scratched my eyeball up, and my eye was black. And I tried to wear a hat at school, and they told me I wasn't allowed to wear it. And then all of them were on top of me. Where did you get that black eye? Where did you get that black eye? I fell and hit my eye. I didn't mention anything that happened with it, because why would I? Because one time I went to school and didn't have a coat on, and I didn't even tell them that I didn't have a coat, but they went to my mom's house and they told her that I didn't have a coat and they were going to take her children away. And she's like, she has a coat. But you know what? This morning I didn't feel like tackling her down into the ground and making her wear that damn coat out of this house. So unless you want to come over to my house every morning and dress my fucking child for school and argue with her about the necessity of a coat, then get out of my face. And she showed them my coat. And I got in severe trouble for it, because they could have taken her children for it. And would have. Which is funny, because if I would have told them I didn't have a coat, they wouldn't have believed me anyway. And they would have thought I was full of shit. Kind of like when I told them that my brother was being abused while we were in foster care, and they didn't believe me. And instead, they chose to stick me in a group home because I was the one causing problems since I reported the abuse. And growing up with things like that, it is really hard to be able to be okay with opening up to those that are in authority or power, or with being able to open up to anybody really, without feeling like they're going to judge you or your family or your situation, without feeling like you're going to in some way get in trouble for it, or without feeling like everybody is going to take what you have to express to them and use it against you in some sort of way, because you're sharing the most vulnerable parts of yourself with them. But know that that is how you create beauty in your life. That is how you make that change. All those people who have had those closer connections, who've had that more intimacy in their life, who have had the people that are there for them in those ways, it's because they're more able to open up and be vulnerable, and to let people into their life, to allow people to see when they need help, 47, to allow people to see when they're going through something. And I feel like a lot of the people you've interacted with over the last couple of years have also helped you to learn and grow in that way, to see things from a very different perspective, to understand things in a different perspective. You might have seen people who were even worse at opening up than you. And you may have seen people who were better at opening up than you. And you're starting to see and understand what people go through when they choose those different paths. Thank you, beautiful. I really appreciate hearing that you love this channel. I love all of you too. I am so glad that that's what you're doing, sweetheart. I'm going to grab 2 more cards here. Actually, 3 more. We're going to grab 3 more. I lied. We're doing 4. Black cat. Fortune meets opportunity. Success is coming to you at this time. This fortune that's meeting opportunity. You got opportunities coming your way, and this time you're ready for them. You're ready to take the bulls by the balls. You're ready to have that courage, that optimism, that hope, and you are ready to just be you. You're ready to believe in magic. You're ready to follow your instincts, your intuition. You are ready to allow that more curious side of your nature to rule. I've always said, if curiosity killed the cat, it killed me first, and that's because, fuck, my curiosity, woo. Yeah. Somebody just mentioned something about some of the people I'm around regularly, and I was like, well, you know what? Here's the thing. If I would have been afraid of those situations and didn't step into them, yeah, there has been a few times where I could have been seriously hurt or killed by people. Some of them were not dangerous situations at all, and I pretty much knew that. Some of them were a little bit more dangerous. But when you're sitting in the car with somebody that's talking about killing you both, and then the radio starts playing a certain song, when you feel a thrill of fear go through you, and it starts singing, I'm not gonna drown in the water, 'cause the good Lord ain't bringing me home. And you look at that person and laugh and tell them that if they try to kill us both today, the only one dying is them, because it's not your time to go, and you already told them that, because you have something to fulfill on this earth. And that person all of a sudden is afraid instead. Boy, it increases your faith. There's been a lot of faith increasing experiences in the last couple years for me. And that person was somebody who said something about they might as well be a serial killer. They didn't tell me no names, places, people, nothing. Nothing like that. They did mention something about the fact that they used to drink very heavily and they had crashed the car with their wife and child in there. Could have been talking about that. They could have also been talking about their past as an enforcer. Doesn't matter what they were talking about, because when they were talking about driving off that bridge into the water that day, it did send a thrill of fear through me for a minute. But instead of giving into that fear, I gave into that faith. And because I gave into that faith, instead of me being afraid of them and them getting to feed off my fear, they were afraid of me. And maybe it changed their life dramatically for the better, because they're like, wait a second, there is a higher power. And I better turn things around. That person also had expressed to me at one point that they didn't want to be that anymore. That they wanted to be something else, that they wanted to change. They didn't know if they could. But who knows? Maybe their experience with me really did bring that change into their life. Shamans have removed darkness, negative entities. They've cleared out, cleansed, and healed people. People that people felt like could never come back from whatever darkness they were in have come back from it. Time and time again in this world. But what it takes is people who believe in miracles and people who have faith and people who believe in their gifts as a healer. Not people who are afraid to do the work that they're called to do and to follow that path and that purpose. You are very welcome, beautiful. You are definitely seeing things from a different perspective at this time. You're seeing things from the perspective of self-love. And you are ready to give generously of the wisdom that you have within you, with no fear attached to that. You are definitely an old soul. And you have a lot of protection as well. There are spirit guides, animal guides around you. If there's a fair amount of animals that spend time around you, they definitely help to replenish your energy in certain ways. And they definitely help in that protection of you. And one nice thing about your animals, they are your family and they will always be there. Unless, of course, somebody tries to take them. They really, really tried over the last 3 weeks to take my family. And I was like, you are not allowed to take my family. And if you do, I will be suing the fucking living shit out of this entire fucking state. That is my family and you cannot take them from me. I refused, no matter how much they harassed me. The first week and a half I was in there and can't do anything about it. They spent harassing me constantly and telling me that they were going to be taken and telling me that I needed to get them out of PALS right now, because if I didn't, they were going to have to get them or give them away because they don't have the space there. And then they sat there telling me that they were going to charge me $10 a day then if I couldn't get them out of there. So now I have $480 racked up and I still got to call them and find out what they want me to do about that, or if I actually owe them that money. Because for all I know, I don't. Fucking 2 days after I called everybody to see if I could get somebody to pick them up, nobody even knew what I was talking about when I asked them about my dogs and whether or not somebody picked them up. What are you talking about? I don't know nothing about your dogs. You guys have been harassing me about it for the last week and a half. You don't know nothing about my dogs now all of a sudden? Or like the fact that they sat there and told me that if I pled guilty, I'd get OR'd, and if I pled not guilty, my bond would probably only be reduced to $5,000 and I wouldn't be able to get out of there. Or the fact that the cops last night were driving past my van repeatedly and then stopped and sat there for a few minutes because I am not allowed to live in my van while I'm out on bond. If I had somewhere to live, I wouldn't have been homeless for the last 3.5 years. But just because I don't have somewhere to live does not mean that I should have to sit in jail. That's not okay. You can't just put somebody in jail because they're fucking homeless. You're not breaking a law by not having a house to live in. And they can't just all of a sudden create that law whenever they feel like it. And they can't use their harassment of you for the last several years and the fact that they're charging you with something that somebody else already confessed to do that either. That's not okay. But it's only because people are going to step into that courage and use their voice that those things are going to change in this world. And by the way, you know what? I've been thinking about posting the information for that judge if anybody wants to be able to call or write, to be able to let him know the impact that I've had in your lives and why you don't feel like I should be in jail. That would be something that would be so supportive and so awesome, and I would really appreciate anybody that could do anything like that. So I'm going to make sure that I remember later, 5555, to do that, to post that information in case anybody wants to be able to reach out to them and support me in that way. That would be phenomenal. So, that would definitely make all the work that I've done the last couple years worth something for sure. It would be it would be enough to save my life in a way, because I am not going to plead guilty to something that they're trying to force me to plead guilty to and spend 3 to 5 years on probation where I wouldn't even be able to go see my mom before she dies. And I'm sure as hell not looking forward to the possibility of spending 6 months to a year in prison and then being on probation for a couple years afterwards because I chose to fight it instead. What? Since I chose to plead guilty, all of a sudden I don't have to go to jail. And then if I choose to fight it because I'm not guilty, I'm going to have to go to jail. That's fucking ridiculous to me. I don't know. That's ridiculous to me. What kind of justice is that? But that is what I fear too, is fighting it. Because 2 of my greatest fears throughout my entire life have been being in prison or being in an old folks home or having Alzheimer's. An old folks home would be prison. The group home that I was in as a teenager was bad enough. It was hard enough. The jail that I spent my time in the last 3 weeks, that was hard enough. And as I wrote in the workbook that I was working on, if I had to spend any real time in there, I think I would choose not to be here anymore. Because you know what? It is my choice. It's much more humane sometimes to put people out of their misery. And being locked in a fucking box for that long is not something, not something that I want to do at all. And it's not that I couldn't do it. I probably could do it if I really wanted to. I don't want to. You can't make me. And that's exactly what I told my guides too. That's what I told the people that I pray to. I don't want to, and you can't make me. And if that's the way it's going to go, then it's going to go the way I say it goes too. Unless, of course, you don't let me out of here yet again. You're welcome, sweetheart. I really appreciate you. Thank you for purchasing today. And thank you guys for the donations as well. Really, really appreciate it, especially at this time. That helps me so much, you guys. So 3 of Wands. So does liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, viewing my videos. All of that stuff really helps me out. Helps to grow this channel. Helps to bring more people in. It helps other people too to be able to find what they need in that sense too. So thank you guys for that. Thank you to our ancestors and our guides. And thank you to those that we pray to too. For helping us to, find the things that we need when we need them. To listen to those signs, those synchronicities, those messages. To help guide us on our path and to protect us on our journey. Because without them, this would be a much worse place to live. I'll tell you that. You might be being afraid in some way of being honest about something in particular, or about taking some sort of path, because you may feel like it's going to take too long. You may feel like it's too long of a journey. You may not have the time for it. You may not have the energy for it. You could definitely be afraid of being honest about certain things in your life because you're not going to be able to make everyone happy. You might be doing a lot for others right now and putting in time, effort, energy. And you might be afraid that that's not going to come back to you too. But that is something that is going to be coming back to you. The time, the effort, the energy, the honesty, the commitment, the loyalty, the dedication, the willpower, the strength that you're showing at this time is something that is going to come back to you in spades. The love that you're giving out, honestly, openly, the vulnerability that you're expressing, that's going to come back to you in equal measure. You may also be afraid of expressing that more childlike side of yourself, of letting loose, of having a stickectomy and removing that stick from your ass and just letting your hair down and allowing yourself to be free. But in that freedom is your happiness. Your inner child is protected now because the adult you is the one that is standing up for them. You don't need no hero from the outside because you have a hero inside of you that is ready to fight for you now. It may have taken you a long time to get to the point of fighting for you. You may have fought for everyone else for years before you got to this point of fighting for you. But you are now at this point of fighting for you. So now you are able to just be yourself and let yourself go. Let yourself be free. Because you have no problem standing up and defending yourself now. Some of you may want to take a self-defense class as well. That might actually be something that boosts your confidence enough to allow you to be able to express your no in certain situations, or to allow you to be able to feel more confident in your inner child being free. Because sometimes in allowing that more vulnerable, loving, beautiful, silly, soft side of ourselves out, we can feel very afraid that it's going to be taken advantage of, stepped on, torn down, or that somebody is going to hurt us in some way. Like taking that path the healer we talked about earlier and being around the people who need to be healed. Because if they're already healed and they're already covered in light and they're already living that life, then they're not the ones that are in most need of your services. The ones that are in most need of your services are mired in darkness. And that's the life of a healer. A healer's work on Dee's StoryTime, which you can find the link for down in the description box below. There's a poem called A Healer's Work. And if I remember, I will share a picture of it later too, because I have a picture of it on my Facebook channel. In a healer swoops like a fairy to places that are desolate and scary, ones that no others would ever go. And yet here we are going with the flow. Here we are. That's where we work. That's where we raise the vibrations. That's where we bring our healing skills and abilities. A doctor isn't going to spend all of their time, energy, and effort on somebody who isn't sick, who isn't bleeding out, who isn't on their deathbed, or who isn't dealing with difficulties because of some sort of disease. A doctor's going to put on their gloves and they're going to put their hands inside of the blood of someone who has AIDS. They're going to hope for the best. They're going to pray for the best. And they're going to be tested afterwards probably too. But their hands are inside that person because that's what they're there to do. That darkness can spread, but so can that light. And that light can really shine so bright that it can cast away all the shadows, even if it's just for a moment, so that person can see the light within themselves and can forgive the darkness. If you can show them forgiveness and grace, they can show it to themselves too. If someone like you can love them, then why can't they love themselves? And they will start to learn, see, and appreciate what there is to love about themselves and what there is to love about this world around them too. Because somebody that shines as brightly as you and has had as much darkness as you dumped on you can still see the good in this world, they can too. Don't be afraid. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. I know it can be hard in a world full of people to not get discouraged lead with courage. But you guys got this. And you know what? While I was sitting in that cell, there was somebody a lot like me sitting in there too. She's going to be there for the next year. And if it wasn't for her being there, in the darkest of places, to bring life and light to the ones that were surrounding her, I wouldn't have had anybody there to light me up in my darkness. If it wasn't for someone I love very much that everyone else sees as a dark thing seeping into everything around it, I wouldn't have been pulled out of that darkness this last winter. That was an extremely dark moment for a second, and that person reached in and pulled me back out. But that person having the chance to do that, got to see that light inside themselves. Just like in that song, True Colors, if you go watch that music video, if you've never seen Trolls, go watch that music video. Because she spent that entire movie trying to pull out his fucking color, trying to pull out his shine, trying to pull out his light. And she's so filled with bubbly, light, beautiful energy. But she also doesn't know the darkness. Just because somebody's filled with that energy doesn't mean they don't know the darkness either, because I've known massive darkness throughout my life and I'm filled with that energy a lot. But there's a lot of people at times who don't realize that I've known that darkness just because I'm in that light. Who think I've had a silver spoon or something in my hand my entire life because of that, when I haven't. At the same time, anyway, she spent the entire movie trying to do that. At one point in time, he's really miserable, and she's singing to him with her guitar. And she's singing The Sound of Silence. And everything in the forest is all joining in with that song to try to bring him up and make him feel good. And trying to help her out. And he's like, here, let me see that guitar really quick. And he smashes it into a bunch of pieces and throws it in the fire. And he pretty much spends the entire movie bringing her down. And then the moment that she fell into darkness, he's like, oh my God. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do this whole time because I fucking hated her light and it was driving me fucking insane. But I don't want you in this darkness. Please come back out of it because this isn't okay. And he brought her back up out of it even while he was mired in that darkness. And then she brought his colors back out. Don't be afraid to stand next to that person that's in the shadows, because everyone else will tell you it isn't good for you. It only isn't good for you if you give your power and your energy away. But at the end of the day, if you do happen to fall into that darkness, there will be other lights that come along to pull you back up and out of it too. Just like you've been there to pull others up and out of it. And that's how you have people to pull you up and out of it. Is by being strong enough, brave enough, courageous enough to stand in it and pull others up out of it. Because what you put out comes back to you. Six of Pentacles and the Empress. Yes, what you put out comes back to you. This person here is being very discerning about where they're giving. They're giving to this person. But if you look, this person's wearing some pretty nice clothes. They seem like they're doing good, things like that. Yet this person needs just as much, if not more, than this person does. And they don't even notice them. They're not giving to them. It's kind of like when you have two children. And you give one a snack, and you let the other one sit there and stare at you like, wait a second, what about me? Did you forget about me? I'm here too. And you don't give them anything. How do you think that makes them feel? Give equally. Don't hold back from certain people simply because others say that you should. Don't shun people because others tell you it's your own fault that you got picked up because you were around certain people. Fuck off. If I wanted to shun people, I'd go live in an Amish community. While I've been down and out the last couple of years because I am one of those people, that's why they picked me up. It wasn't because of other people I'm around, it's because of me. Because they don't like homeless people any more than they like anything else. And you know what? Those people were the ones who lifted me up. Those people were the ones that gave to me in my time of need. The addicts, the alcoholics, the ex-addicts, the ex-alcoholics, the imperfect people, the ones that don't follow society's rules, the ones that are rebels, the ones that everybody wants to put in a box. Those are the ones that stepped in for me. And I'm not going to leave them behind simply because it improves my image and because they want me to. They want me to say those people are bad people. But those people are not bad people. And the ones that they are claiming are such great people, I didn't see them anywhere. There was one or two of them. I will give it that. Because just like not all of these people they're claiming are bad are good, not all of these people that they're claiming are good are bad either. But some of them are, and vice versa. Just like not all people on drugs are bad. Not all people sober are good. Because guess what? My childhood molester was sober. He was sober, he didn't cheat, he wasn't a wife beater. All kinds of things like that. He was what everybody thought was perfect. 111. 1111. But underneath that facade of perfection, everyone has skeletons in their closet. His were just very well hidden because he didn't want anybody to know about those ones. Because those ones are the ones that everybody feels like you should die for. Like being a pedophile. Hey, it's okay, guys. So, you don't have to do anything to please anyone. And it's time to just be. It's time to embrace both your shadow side and your light side. And it's time to embrace the shadow and light side of others as well. A good mother is not going to turn away from their child simply because their child isn't what they hoped that they would be. And is something that they may not agree with. My mother, when I called her from jail, I was kind of worried about it. But holy shit. And if it wasn't for my older sister going through what she went through when she was younger, it probably would have been different. But she shoved my older sister right out of her life with the way she reacted back then. So there was no way she was going to do it that way again. She was going to try something different this time. Kind of like my first older sister and how she constantly said fucked up things about the man she was dating. And then she married him and had a bunch of kids with him and stayed with him for 18 years. And then came out as a lesbian. But my mom felt like she pushed him right into pushed her right into his arms by constantly berating him and constantly telling her that she didn't need to be with him and constantly trying to get her to change her mind. She felt like she shoved her right into him. So when my first boyfriend came along and she wasn't necessarily super happy about it, didn't necessarily super agree with it, which is crazy because that is one of the best men that I actually was with throughout my lifetime. She did not do the same thing because she didn't want it to turn out the same way, and she actually explained that to me later too. When I called her, she told me she loved me. And that's all she wanted me to know is I love you. And then when we got cut off because the phone call only lasted 15 minutes, and it cost $4 for those 15 minutes, by the way, $4. That's how they make all their money, is by locking people who don't deserve it up and taking it from them. People who don't even have it. If it wasn't for my roommate, the one I was talking about a little while ago, I wouldn't have even had a pen to do the workbooks that look good on my court date. Because you have to buy them. And they won't give you one even to do workbooks. And they won't give you one to draw, which is one of my biggest therapies, or to write, which is one of my biggest therapies. You're going to steal every form of therapy that I have. My essential oils, my outside time, my writing, my drawing. Every form of therapy I have, you're going to steal it. And then you're going to stick me in a box and say it's not abuse. That is abuse. It's abuse, and it's abuse of power especially to do it. The way they've been doing it for the last 3.5 years, culminating in this. It's not okay for them to do that to anybody. But you know what was fucking amazing about it? That my mom told me that. And that she was accepting of what was going on. And when I called her back, she's like, why are you wasting all your money on me? Because last thing she said was, I just really want you to know I love you. before I go. And that's the biggest thing, is I want you to know I love you. And I call her back and she's like, why are you wasting your time on me? I was like, because you know what? That's what I want for my birthday, and the money that's on here is to just be able to finish our conversation. I know you weren't done talking, and I wasn't done talking either. Just like when Jeremiah told me not to, because I was like, I will try to put $5 to $10 on your books. My mom sent me some birthday money, and I will try to put $5 to $10 on your books. That's pretty much all I can do. And he's like, don't do that. Well, I did put $6 on there, and I put it on there like I told him, because that's what I want for my birthday. Maybe that is what I want for my birthday, is just to be able to talk to you for a minute after the 3 weeks of not being able to, of getting yelled at for looking at you through the mirrored window when the curtain is open a slight amount, which happened to be one of the only things bringing either one of us a little bit of light. So, and yet you're not allowed to do that. People are allowed to throw themselves at the male guards there, but you know, you're not allowed to look at your boyfriend through the mirrored window when they leave the curtain open. If they do leave the curtain open, you better not be looking at them or interacting with them in any way. But I didn't have anything for them to take anyway, because I already didn't have anything. The lamp, remembrance, night song, hidden talents. Remembrance of your hidden talents, remembrance of your ability to communicate with those from the afterlife and the messages that are coming in. You may have some of your ancestors around you right now that are trying to shine a light on some of the things that you have forgotten. Ooh, Halloween Town is coming to mind, where the pumpkin went dark. And when they relight that pumpkin, that's what chases the shadows away. So there may actually even be a lot of things throughout your family line and throughout your history that were shunned out of existence or stomped out of existence, where the people in your family line had to turn away from those that they loved, or face death or torture or dismemberment, or fucking burning in flames, or being tied to fucking cement blocks and thrown in the water to die. Because if they came out, they were definitely a witch, but if they died, their mortal soul was saved, or their immortal soul was saved. God, a bunch of bullshit. People have been abusing fucking power and authority since the beginning of time. When it gets to be too much power and authority, they switch into abusing it. This country was much more abundant, was much more fertile, was growing, was doing good when they provided their citizens with freedom. And when they allowed them to go their own way and find their own path. But now that they're trying to control them and hold them down and doing everything in their power to force them to be what they want them to be, this country is not so abundant. It's not so fertile. It's not doing so good. I don't know how they don't realize that, understand that, or see that. But that is what's causing it. Because they've stolen the happiness of their citizens, and that happiness and that good vibes and that good energy is what causes things to flourish. But when it's sucked out of it and it's sucked dry, then that darkness starts to reign. Which is why you can't turn away from that darkness, and you need to go into that darkness with that light to banish the shadows. So don't be afraid to do that. And that is pretty much what I got for you guys today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this reading. I would love to hear what you guys had to say about it, whether or not it resonates, what you might have going on, all that kind of good stuff. And I hope you guys have a beautiful night or day, whatever it is, wherever you are when you're watching. Also, once again, thank you to anybody who supports my channel, whether it be through liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, purchasing, donating, anything that you guys do, each and everything that you guys do. All makes a difference, and all of it really helps me out. It helps me to be able to support myself, as I'm here to support you on your path, and it also brings that support to everyone that I touch. So thank you for that, and I really hope you guys have a beautiful night or day, whatever it is, wherever you are when you're watching. Bye bye, guys.